Before we dive into the video, please give me a like and subscribe. Thank you. Everyone, the story begins the night before my wife, Vanessa, was supposed to attend a parent-teacher meeting. She held hands with her male assistant and walked into a hotel. I called her, but the one who answered was my 13-year-old daughter. She coldly told me that her mother was attending a meeting and couldn't be disturbed. After that, she blocked my number. Later that night, they used the excuse of erupting family harmony to lock me out on the balcony during a storm. They punished me to stand facing the wall all night. This time I really couldn't bear it anymore. Dragging my feverish body, I placed the divorce papers in front of Vanessa and officially requested a divorce in the bedroom. When she heard the word divorce, Vanessa didn't even lift her eyelids. She was still focused on painting her nails. I stood there waiting for an hour until I could hardly bear it anymore. Finally, she coldly laughed and said, "Ethan, it's just a bit of cold wind. You want a divorce just for that? You deserve to be punished." I opened my mouth to explain a few words but just endured it with a bitter smile and said, "Sign it." Vanessa casually said that the custody of our daughter belonged to me and asked if I had any objections. Seeing me shake my head, she raised her cold eyebrows in surprise and said, "To be fair." She called Luna into the bedroom and asked, "If Mom and Dad divorce, who do you want to stay with?" Luna, who is truly the daughter of Vanessa, not only looks like her mother but even has the same contemptuous and disdainful look when looking at me. Luna replied, "Of course I will stay with Mom. In the past, because Vanessa had difficulty having children, I loved her and didn't hesitate to allow our daughter to take her mother's surname. If I had heard my daughter, whom I had loved for many years, say such words before, I would definitely have been restless and sleepless all night. But after last night's incident, my love for Luna has gradually faded. I don't even want to look at her." Turning my back, I walked into the living room and began to pack my luggage. Over the past 13 years, my tolerance and concession in marriage have been exhausted. They never did any housework. All the eating, drinking, and traveling were taken care of by me. I am a person who lives frugally, and I almost have no personal property in this house. In less than 10 minutes I had packed up. When I pulled the suitcase out of the living room, Vanessa was sitting on the sofa watching TV. She didn't even turn her head and asked where I was going. I told the driver to take me there. I don't need it. I endured the fever and tried to walk out the door. At that moment, a dodgeball from the second floor flew over and hit the back of my head. The second floor is Luna's game room. She often practices dodgeball after doing homework. Seeing me holding my head and falling to the ground moaning in pain, Vanessa and Luna exchanged glances with an understanding look. Standing there, they continued to pretend as if nothing had happened. They left me lying there moaning for more than half an hour. Finally, I dragged myself, sweating and shivering with cold, out of their door. I went to the hospital by myself to get an infusion. After the fever subsided, I sat on the bus heading to my grandfather's city. 2 hours later, I stood in front of my grandfather's door. He was overjoyed at my unexpected appearance and didn't ask anything. He just hurried to make a pot of sweet potato rice. When I was young, Luna, like me, loved sweet potato rice very much. There were times when she was so full that she would whine and ask me to hold her when she was about 5 or 6 years old. A child from the family told Luna that sweet potatoes were a countryside dish. Since then, Luna never allowed me to bring my grandfather's sweet potatoes home again. Watching me eat rice in a hurry, to the point of pounding my chest and burping continuously, every wrinkle on my grandfather's face was filled with joy. That night, I had a good sleep after years of insomnia. I knew that finally I had come home. 2 days later, I received a call from Vanessa. She coldly and arrogantly asked me where the high-end evening dress she bought abroad last year was hanging. I unconsciously told her the exact location and even suggested she match it with the necklace in the left compartment. On the other end of the line, I heard the rustling of clothes as she got dressed. Then she reluctantly complimented, "It's not bad either. I'll wear this to the brand event tonight." She paused for a moment and then continued, "Send me your address. I'll have someone bring the wedding anniversary suit you ordered in advance." I refused, saying I didn't need it. Adrian and I don't have the same taste. Adrian is Vanessa's first love, her bright moon. Ever since he returned to the country and became Vanessa's close male assistant, everything from her schedule to gifts was arranged by him. Hearing me mention Adrian, Vanessa's tone immediately turned cold. She mocked. Who do you think you are to compare yourself with, Adrian? I chuckled inwardly. She was right. I said, I'm not worthy. I told her not to waste good things on me. Vanessa was left speechless. Looking at the clock on the wall, I continued, trouble you to ask Adrian to quickly arrange a visit to the Civil Affairs Bureau. When it's done, just text me. No need to call anymore. I was about to hang up when Vanessa changed the subject. The girl is right beside you. She wants to say a few words to you. Before Luna could speak, I quickly turned off the screen. Just as resolute as the day, Luna blocked my number without saying a word. I put down the phone, sat next to my grandfather, and watched the opera with him. With the prolonged rhythmic sounds, a week passed in the blink of an eye. As I was waiting in the hotel lobby, a call came from an unknown number. It was Luna's school principal. He said that Luna had grabbed a girl's hair and started a quarrel because the other girl had. I listened to rumors and was asked about the reason for Luna's parents' divorce in front of the whole class. I was silent for a moment and then said, this is not a rumor. I have really divorced Luna's mother. The custody of the child does not belong to me. Please contact her mother to resolve it. After hearing what I said, the principal was a bit embarrassed, and then informed me that Luna had only provided my phone number. So, I told the principal to put the phone on speaker in front of the injured student and her parents. I calmly said to Luna, if you hit someone, you are wrong. You should admit your mistake. Isn't this the principle that you and your mother always believe in? Moreover, whether it is your mother or you, from now on, please do not call me anymore. Luna, you must understand that there is no longer any relationship between me and your mother and you. After saying this, I hung up the phone, turned on Do Not Disturb mode and smiled, waving to Daniel and his son. When Vanessa was pregnant with Luna, she always said that she hoped to have a boy so that the two fathers and sons could protect her together. But I always dreamed that the child in her belly would be a girl. God was really kind. Luna came to me as a doting father. I always regarded Luna as a treasure and raised her with all my heart. Before the age of 6, Luna would plant a small tree in the backyard. Because of the death of a cartoon cat, she would also run into my arms after kindergarten and cutely ask, Dad, do you think the duck I drew is cute? Later, Vanessa began to frequently take Luna back to the old house. Since the age of 8, Luna no longer stayed with me and rarely smiled at me. She began to criticize my grandfather's red brick, black-tiled house, saying it was not as good as the modern buildings in the city. She disdainfully said to me, Dad grew up here when he was young. No wonder Grandma never took you seriously. The cheerful laughter of Daniel's son brought me back to reality. Seeing that I had finally come to my senses, Daniel gently patted my shoulder and asked if I could help him with something. As a longtime friend, I hadn't even heard what he asked before I smiled and agreed. A month later, on a Friday, I unexpectedly ran into Vanessa at the schoolyard. She was arm in arm with Adrian, looking me up and down coldly. Adrian took the initiative to greet me. Ethan, long time no see. Luna didn't tell me you were coming. Luna is the president of the school's short-distance running club. There was definitely a competition today, but I didn't come because the girls saw me and didn't say anything. Adrian walked straight up to the podium. Vanessa also pulled her hand out of Adrian's hand and walked over without paying attention. She mocked, Ethan, didn't you say you wanted to cut off relations with your daughter? So why are you here now to lose face? I was too lazy to argue with Vanessa and just said, please don't stand close to me. I don't want others to misunderstand. Misunderstand what? That I am still husband and wife with you. Hearing this, Vanessa was slightly surprised, and then her beautiful face suddenly turned cold. Ethan, I advise you to know your place. I didn't understand what she meant at that time. I was just busy waving to Aaron on the track. The men's and women's short-distance running competitions were held at the same time. Luna stood 5 meters away from Aaron. I knew she had seen me. She must have thought I was waving at her. If not, her expression of disgust and contempt would not have been so obvious. The starting gun sounded, and both men and women started running. Aaron ran faster than expected, while Luna, who usually took the lead, suddenly fell halfway. As soon as the competition ended, Vanessa and I rushed to the track together. Vanessa was a few steps faster than me, and immediately went to Luna's side and seriously asked the school doctor about the girl's condition. The school doctor was about to speak when Vanessa suddenly signaled him to wait. She turned to me, who was standing not far away, looking down at my phone and texting. "Ethan, why are you still dawdling there? Don't you see your daughter is injured?" Vanessa's shout made the people around turn to look at me. I put down the phone and looked indifferently at Luna, whose lips were pale, whose knees were scratched and swollen red, and whose left ankle was twisted at an abnormal angle. Luna really fell very heavily. She was in so much pain that she instinctively reached out to me, her lips trembling, her eyes full of hopelessness. But what does that have to do with me? Just as Luna wrote in her composition last year, she has grown up and no longer needs a useless father who only knows how to cook and do laundry at home, who is so ordinary that he doesn't even know how to play the saxophone, and who always worries about unnecessary things. In front of everyone, I walked straight past Luna with my big eyes, smiled, and walked to the men's track to congratulate Aaron. "Congratulations on winning the silver medal. Let Luna go. Your father is waiting at the school gate. He said he would take us to eat the seafood you like best to reward you." I left the school gate with a light heart. As soon as I sat in the car, my phone rang. It was a call from Vanessa. At first, I didn't want to answer, but she sent a text message about the divorce. So when I got to the restaurant, I told Daniel to take his son in first, and I would go in later. After more than 2 months, this was the first time I had taken the initiative to call Vanessa. The phone rang for less than half a second before her somewhat angry voice came from the other end. "Ethan, where are you now? No matter where I am, you can tell me when are you free to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau." Vanessa was silent for a moment, and her voice tried to become gentle. "But first you should go to the hospital. Luna was seriously injured. She may not be able to compete anymore. The doctor has something to discuss with us. If she can't compete, it's a small matter." There is no need to tell me Vanessa couldn't believe it. "Ethan, how can you say such things? Are you still Luna's father?" I leaned my head against the pillow on the back seat and calmly said, "Vanessa, it was you who called Luna into the bedroom. It was you who made her tell me that after the divorce, she didn't want to live with an alien like me. So why are you acting as if I have abandoned the girl? Now don't you see that you and your daughter are very contradictory and ridiculous?" The other end of the line fell into a long silence, so much so that I thought she had put the phone down and deliberately left me hanging. But then Vanessa spoke again. Her usual proud voice now had a hint of failure that couldn't be concealed. "Ethan, if you have any conditions, just say them. I will agree. In return, please come to the hospital now to take care of Luna. You know how busy I am. I can't stay here to look after the child all the time." I smiled slightly. My condition has always been the same: to quickly complete the divorce procedures with me. As for Luna, as your ex-husband, I can only advise you to quickly find a nurse for the girl. I don't know which of my words angered Vanessa. I only heard the sound of something being knocked to the ground, followed by her fierce voice. "Luna is the girl you have taken care of from a young age and loved like a treasure. Ethan, do you really want to divorce me? Do you really have the heart to let our daughter grow up in a single-parent family?" Of course, I kindly reminded her that she always had a man waiting quietly for her to come back. Adrian cared a lot about Luna. Of course, you can say that it is the love that spreads from the family, but Luna has always been looking forward to the day when you turn Adrian into her father. As her mother, you should fulfill this wish for her sooner. Vanessa gritted her teeth. "Don't you really feel happy when you hear your daughter call someone else dad?" I replied without hesitation, "Of course I am happy. 3 years ago, when the family went bankrupt abroad, Adrian had to struggle to return to the country. At that time, Vanessa, as a female star, was not afraid of the gossip of the media and hired him as her personal assistant to help her manage all the important work in the entertainment company. On Father's Day last year, Luna spent all her pocket money to buy a halo for Adrian and skipped school many times to have meals and take walks with him. In fact, they are a real family. As for me, after understanding the reality, I can only continue to live and move forward." Vanessa was still talking incessantly on the phone, but I was too hungry and didn't want to waste any more time. I couldn't help but interrupt. "If you are not free to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau next week. We will meet in court." After saying this, I hung up the phone, turned it off and walked into the restaurant. The second time, Vanessa still did not appear, so I officially hired a lawyer and handed over all the divorce matters to them. A month later, on a weekend afternoon in the middle of a field, I wore a straw hat and admired the sunset in the sky. After a few seconds, I gently patted the shoulder of the young man next to me and said with a smile, "Aaron, maybe Grandpa has finished cooking. Let's go home and have dinner." Aaron replied excitedly, "Yes, I'll help you carry the 2 buckets of fresh fruit we just picked." We laughed and talked, catching the evening glow and running quickly back home. When I opened the door, I was about to show off to my grandfather, who was standing at the door, about today's labor results. But when I stepped into the house, I noticed that my grandfather's expression was a bit unnatural. Following his gaze, I realized that there was an uninvited guest in the living room. It was Luna. My grandfather hadn't seen the girl for many years, but every year he would use his old clunky phone to painstakingly write and urge me to send him a new family photo, so he still recognized Luna. There were some things that I had never told him, but as someone who had lived alone for more than half a century, his heart was as clear as a mirror. I told him to take Aaron into the kitchen to wash the fruit and then come out later. He sadly nodded and walked into the kitchen with a slightly stooped posture. As soon as I entered the living room, the girl struggled to stand up from the sofa. Looking at her ankle wrapped in plaster and the simple luggage placed at her feet, I calmly said, "What are you doing at my house?" As soon as the words left my mouth, the atmosphere, which had already been a bit awkward, became even more suffocating, as if the air had stopped moving. Luna's fingers unconsciously clutched the edge of her dress. In no time, her fingernails were stained with blood, a sign of her anxiety and unease. In the past, when she was under too much study pressure and exhibited this behavior, I was always the first to hold her hand, tell jokes, or make funny faces to make her happy and divert her attention. But this time, Luna waited for a long time, yet I didn't come to stop her from hurting herself as usual. After a while of tension, the girl turned her face and stared at the magazine beside her, bit her lip tightly, and then softly said, "I'm injured. The doctor said I need my father's care to get better." What a naive lie, truly laughable. I sat down on a single sofa and calmly said, "I know your mother forced you to come here. Don't worry, I won't appear in front of you as she wishes." Luna shook her head unexpectedly and hurriedly said, "No, I came on my own." I was silent for a few seconds and then indifferently said, No matter whose idea it was, you should understand that your father and mother have decided to divorce. Your mother has custody of you from now on. The 2 of you are a real family." As soon as the words left my mouth, Luna's eyes suddenly turned towards me. In those young and proud eyes there was confusion and disbelief. "But you are my father," she said. Seeing that I showed no emotion, I did not respond. The girl stubbornly frowned and said, "Anyway, legally I am still your daughter." "Yes, you are my daughter," I replied. "I once gave you all the fatherly love I could. It's really ridiculous that you don't deserve that love at all." "Luna, do you remember last year when I came to your school for the award ceremony? How did you introduce me to your teacher?" Luna had won the championship in the youth group at the International Ballet Competition and was voted the Outstanding Student of the Year. The school had informed me in advance, and at the award ceremony, I was invited to present the award to my daughter. To avoid embarrassing her, I, who am usually simple, specially bought an expensive suit and spent a few hours styling my hair at a high-end salon. However, as soon as I entered the auditorium and was about to shake hands with her head teacher, Luna brought Adrian over and introduced him as her father. When the head teacher looked at me in confusion, the girl glanced at me with a contemptuous look. "Uncle Tran, please be aware of your status. You are just the driver of our family. Please don't dress so extravagantly on occasions like this. It's really embarrassing." So Adrian took my place on the podium, hugged the girl and took a photo with her. That photo was printed out by Vanessa, enlarged, and hung in the most prominent position in the star studio she founded. Luna's face gradually turned pale. I continued, "Luna, I know you always considered me a disgrace, feeling that I am not worthy of being your father. If that's the case, now I will officially clarify to you that Ethan is not your father and Luna is no longer my daughter. From now on, there is no relationship between us." After saying what I truly felt, I stood up and walked straight to the door. Leaning against the threshold, I ordered Luna, "After you leave, never come back again. This house does not welcome anyone unrelated." After hearing my words, Luna's fingers trembled. She clenched her fists and stood still, refusing to leave. Seeing this, I quickly walked back to the living room, grabbed her hand with one hand and her luggage with the other, and without hesitation dragged her outside. "Wait, Dad, my foot hurts," she cried out in pain, but I sternly pushed her out of the gate. When I threw the luggage at Luna, Vanessa stepped out from behind the big tree outside the gate. Her face was heavy and her voice was trembling. "Ethan, the girl has been having nightmares every night recently. She really misses you and needs you. Can't you let her stay for a few days?" I replied without hesitation, "No." At that moment, Luna looked towards the kitchen and stealthily glanced at Aaron, who was curiously watching us. She pointed at the boy and asked indignantly, "Why is this strange boy allowed to live here but I am not? I am your real daughter." Looking at Luna with disgust, I said, "What makes you think you can compare yourself with my adopted son? Aaron not only lives here but can stay as long as he wants. As for you, how many times do I have to tell you, Luna? This is the last time I'm telling you I don't need you anymore. Since you chose to follow your mother, you are no longer my daughter." Luna stood there, stunned. The proud girl who had never shed tears since she was 5 years old now had uncontrollable tears rolling down her eyelashes. After a while of silence, Vanessa's eyes filled with disappointment as she hugged Luna and finally couldn't help but ask, "Ethan, you used to be so gentle. Why are you so cruel to our daughter now?" In response, all she heard was the loud slam of the front door. That night, the storm was fierce, with thunder and lightning crashing. Vanessa's red sports car was still parked on the muddy road behind the big tree. My grandfather held a flashlight and an oil paper umbrella, intending to bring a warm quilt for Luna, but I noticed in time and gently persuaded him to go back to the room. The next morning, Vanessa, who was always cold and calm, hurriedly knocked on the courtyard door, begging me to see Luna. Her eyes were full of tears as she said, "Luna had a high fever last night, vomiting and feeling dizzy. She is very sick." My grandfather had severe hearing loss and couldn't hear the knocking. I had put on earphones for Aaron and myself, so I just comfortably turned over and continued to sleep until noon. When I woke up and saw that Vanessa's car was gone, I happily whistled and led Aaron to continue visiting my grandfather's melon garden. When Aaron returned to school, the boy brought a lot of fresh fruits that he had picked by himself to share with his classmates. A group of students who rarely left the city chatted excitedly about the novelty. "Are these blueberries? They are so big and sweeter than the ones bought in the supermarket." "Yes, they are sweeter because my adoptive father used to be a doctoral student at the agricultural university. These blueberries are from North America and are only grown at my grandfather's house. You can't find them anywhere else." Hearing Aaron's words, someone asked with admiration, "Can you take us there next time you go back?" With my approval, the whole class cheered happily. When I left the classroom, I stood in the hallway dyed red by the sunset, quietly admiring the vast sky that I hadn't paid attention to for a long time. A doctoral student at the agricultural university. I couldn't remember how long it had been since I last heard that title. 13 years ago, I was still a doctoral student who hadn't left the ivory tower. My life back then was all about going to school, doing research, and writing papers until Vanessa, in an attempt to force me into an early marriage, deliberately tore the condom and got pregnant with Luna. She knelt down and proposed as Vanessa had wished. I personally put the engagement ring on her finger. Everyone around us said that the ancestors of the TR family truly blessed us. At first, Vanessa told me that once our child grew up a bit more, I could continue my doctoral studies and pursue the agricultural research career I desired. Day by day, year by year, in the blink of an eye, Luna was old enough to start elementary school when I suggested that I should return to my studies. The J family said that Luna couldn't have a father who was always muddling around in the mud. Even Luna said, "Grandma says that marrying Mom is the greatest blessing in Dad's life. Don't cause trouble anymore or you'll embarrass our family." The sudden ringtone of my phone pulled me back to reality. Looking at the screen, I saw a call from Vanessa. I kept my face calm and decided to block her number. I had already asked my lawyer to file for divorce and had informed Vanessa that if she had any matters, she should contact my lawyer directly. She could treat my words as idle talk, but I could also block her at will. A big storm in September blew down the back roof of my grandfather's house, which had been damaged for a long time. Therefore, I discussed with my grandfather that we would reinforce and rebuild the entire house. Before rebuilding, of course, we needed to clean up and pack the important items to store in the warehouse. So, I opened the door to the room where my parents used to live. My grandfather occasionally swept it with a feather duster, so it wasn't too dusty inside. It didn't take long before I saw the familiar plush rabbit. As I smiled and prepared to call my grandfather over, a sweet and gentle voice rang out, blocking my view. "The plush rabbit you're holding looks very familiar." I heard the soft voice of Vanessa. The smile on my lips immediately faded. I asked her, "Vanessa, do you really want me to call the police and accuse you of harassing the residents before you disappear from my sight?" My blunt words made the usually proud and cold woman show an unprecedented look of embarrassment. For the first time, she interlaced her fingers and spoke in a low tone. "Ethan, I know you hate me to the bone and don't want to see me now, but after all, we have been husband and wife for 13 years. I hope you can give me a chance to explain the misunderstanding." I coldly looked at her. There were no misunderstandings between us. I had never seen Vanessa so flustered. She spoke hurriedly. "That day when you saw me and Adrian going into the hotel together, why didn't you call me back? Ethan, if you had called me, you would know that Adrian and I went to the hotel just to meet a director there. If you don't believe me, I can ask someone to retrieve the video footage from that day for you to see." As she spoke, Vanessa really took out her phone to call the hotel staff. However, I calmly said, "There's no need for that. It's not important. What I'm saying is whatever happened between you and Adrian is your business. You don't need to explain to me because I don't care." "I'm not lying, Vanessa. Actually, the divorce papers were already printed before I saw you and Adrian enter the hotel. Initially, I planned to propose the divorce on our 13th wedding anniversary, but plans couldn't keep up with reality." Vanessa's eyes turned red as she, "Good, they're staring at me for a long time." Finally, her red lips softly said, "It's very important, Ethan. It's very important. You can't falsely accuse me." Whether it's a false accusation or not, actually, Vanessa knew very well in her heart. But seeing that I didn't want to get entangled anymore and was about to leave, she still didn't give up. She tightly grabbed my wrist and said, "Husband, I really know I'm wrong." On the way here, a hint of hesitation flashed in Vanessa's eyes, and then she continued, "I have fired Adrian. Ethan, you know my personality. I have never begged anyone in my life, not even my own parents. But today, standing here, I beg you. I beg you to give me one last chance to save us. Don't divorce, okay?" Looking into Vanessa's eyes, which were full of pleading, my eyes remained as calm as an ancient well. "Vanessa, I really don't love you anymore, so let's stop here." I shook off the woman who had just lost all her strength due to the shock and walked out of the room. Outside, standing there was a cold and proud girl who looked like a mini version of Vanessa. The girl stared foolishly at the plush rabbit in my hand. "Dad, this is the rabbit Grandma said for you. You thought you had lost it by accident." Hearing this, I shook my head. "No, it wasn't lost by accident, Luna. This is the rabbit you threw into the trash can when you were 8 years old. This rabbit was a birthday gift from my mother to you when you were 3. Every stitch was made while she was suffering from cancer. When you were little and scared to sleep alone, as long as you had this rabbit by your side, you would become brave and not be afraid of anything anymore. When you were 5 years old, you cried bitterly because the rabbit's ear came undone. I quickly fixed it for you. When you were 8 years old, after hearing Adrian say that girls of the same age in foreign countries wouldn't like such naive toys, you secretly tore it apart, destroyed it, and threw the rabbit to the bottom of the trash can. To find this rabbit, I ran to all the trash cans around, opening each bag one by one, feeling nauseous and trembling. I searched the whole afternoon until I finally found this keepsake from my mother. That afternoon, I couldn't control my emotions. My eyes were red and I slapped Luna twice. I punished the girl to stand in the corner for 10 minutes. Since then, Luna never called me Dad again. Many years have passed. Luna's red eyes looked at the rabbit she had once discarded. Her voice choked with emotion. "Dad, this is a gift from Grandma. Dad, give it back to me. Lately, I've been having trouble sleeping. I really need it." Luna reached out to touch the rabbit, but I pushed the girl, who had just recovered from illness, to the ground without any mercy. I coldly looked at my daughter, her pale face filled with panic as she looked up at me. "Don't use your dirty hands to touch Grandma's keepsake," I said. As soon as the words left my mouth, not far away, Adrian's surprised and choked sobs could be heard. The uninvited man looked at Luna, now with compassion, and then loudly questioned me. Ethan, are you crazy? Just because Vanessa wants to divorce you, you treat her daughter like this. I knew Vanessa was standing right behind me. Adrian's words were clearly intended to provoke a reaction. I lowered my head and couldn't help but laugh. At this point, the pale-faced man still thought he could cause trouble. I walked up to Adrian without saying a word and punched him. Adrian fell to the ground, gritting his teeth and trying to say something, but I coldly kicked him hard in the stomach. After a while, his face turned pale and his whole body trembled. Adrian tried to stand up, muttering curses and lunging at me. Vanessa immediately told him to get out. Turning to me, she advised, "Calm down. Don't get angry over someone unrelated. It will affect your health." Adrian's face was now as red as a lantern. He shouted, "Vanessa, are you crazy? I'm the one who got beaten." In the face of Adrian's uncontrollable anger, Vanessa just frowned and coldly said, "Firing him was my decision. It has nothing to do with Ethan. Moreover, with your small stature, how dare you even think about fighting with my husband? If there's nothing else, leave now or I'll have to waste time calling an ambulance for you." Adrian couldn't believe his eyes. Not only did I beat him, but I also pushed his daughter. Is she asleep? Luna leaned against the wall, slowly standing up from the ground, her face covered in cold sweat, and said, "It has nothing to do with Dad. I fell down by accident." Hearing this, Adrian was so angry that he felt like his lungs would burst. However, although Vanessa's words were hard to hear, they were very practical. After thinking it over, the useless Adrian cursed and ran away. After Adrian left in humiliation, both Vanessa and Luna seemed to want to say something but stopped, quietly looking at me. I knew what they were thinking. They thought that after Adrian was no longer the fuse, I would quickly soften my heart as before and return to the family, continuing to try to be a good husband and father. Indeed, I had only taken 2 steps when Vanessa's soft voice came from behind. "Ethan, Luna and I have been driving for 2 hours since early morning and haven't eaten anything. Actually, I'm fine, but the girl is still in her developmental stage. Can you make us a bowl of noodles?" I thought for a moment and then said, "You two wait outside the gate, I'll bring it out." Instead of going to the kitchen nearby, I took the plush rabbit and went back to the room. I opened the first drawer of the bookshelf and took out a set of documents that I had prepared a long time ago. 2 minutes later, I handed the set of documents and a bag of bread to Luna. I said to Vanessa and Luna, "I have consulted a lawyer. It is currently very difficult to officially sever the father-daughter relationship through legal procedures in the country, but it doesn't matter. As long as Luna signs this contract, there will be no more obligations of support or care between me and I have chosen to give up my daughter. Of course, I won't let her bear the responsibility of worrying about me in the future. This contract is entirely to ensure Luna's interests." But the girl suddenly had red eyes, knelt down in front of me, grabbed my trouser leg and cried, pleading with me to forgive her. "Dad, I don't want to sever ties with you. Without your care, I will be useless. Luna can't live without Dad. Dad, please don't give up on me." Vanessa slightly opened her red lips, her eyes empty, looking at me as if she had never known me. Luna pleaded for a long time, but I still didn't change my mind. The girl panicked and turned to her mother, crying miserably. "Mom, didn't you say that Dad was just angry? Mom, you're lying to me. Mom, please help me apologize to Dad. Tell him I know I was wrong and that I will be good from now on." Vanessa's shoulders trembled. She turned around, covered her eyes with her hand on the verge of tears. After a long while, she reluctantly calmed down and turned to face me. I cut her off and said, "Take Luna away and don't show up again." After saying this, I ignored the painful looks of Vanessa and Luna, slowly closed the wooden door, and returned to the living room. My grandfather was sitting in a sunny corner, wearing his reading glasses and clumsily sewing the tattered plush rabbit. I poured 2 cups of tea, one for my grandfather and one for myself, and then turned on the computer to work. 5 months after the divorce, I replaced the busy Daniel to pick up my son from school. As soon as Aaron sat in the car, he began to complain about the recent big event at school. The boy said that a week ago, a girl named Luna in class 9, because of an argument with her alcoholic star mother, jumped from the 3rd floor during an evening class. She is still in the intensive care unit, and it is unclear how she is. Because of this incident, the school also specially organized a talk on the psychological health of adolescents, which made the boy miss several physical education classes. Hearing the boy's innocent complaints, I was silent for a while and then said, "Aaron, although your parents have hot tempers, they both truly love you. You must not be impulsive like that girl. Your life is still very long. No matter how many mistakes you make, as long as you have the courage to start over, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome." Aaron snorted foolishly, scratched his head, and said to me with a smile, "Adoptive father, don't worry. A strong man can endure when necessary, right? Besides, there is still adoptive father in the future. If my parents decide to hit me, I will run to adoptive father's and grandfather's house to hide." Haha, okay, you already understand what endurance is at such a young age. What do you want to eat? Let's go. The neon lights on both sides of the road kept flashing. I slowly steered the steering wheel, merging the silver-black car into the flow of traffic. Nights are always at your feet. As long as you have the heart, you can get anywhere.